as we are approaching our finale, as we say, of the climate neutrality dialogue, I'd like to call for the last panel or session, which is building climate neutral communities, which is very much into what we have to discuss, starting of course with Dr. Salah Arafa, Professor Dr. Salah Arafa, Fellow Professor for Renewable Energy and Sustainable Development and Stad Science Academy, Sweden. Mr. Aziz Ibrahim, Board Member, Revolta, Egypt. Of course, Dr. Dua Salman Abdo, member of, Professor of Economics, Head of Departments at MSA, October University for Sciences and Arts, and as well member of the Euro-Mediterranean Forum of Institutes of Economic Sciences. Ms. Randa, Dr. Randa Munir. We're just calling you. Dr. Randa Munir, founder of the Green Consultants and former advisor to the Egyptian Minister of the Environment. And last but not least, certainly, Mr. Abdel Rahman Fahmi, Chairman of You Think Green Social Enterprise. I am truly honored again and flattered to be moderating this session. And please, if you would allow me, no, it's okay. I'll be as well this time on my feet. So to change the format a little bit. No, it's fine. I'll be like, this is much easier. Thank you so much. Allow me, please, the honor of moderating this session, and I'm truly flattered by the presence of such a panel of experts. First, I'd like to start with Dr. Arafa. And as we are in the panel of building our sustainable communities. We moved, since the start of the day, we said we had an emergency for the climate. We talked about the general session and the general framework of policies and governance and funding, and many topics were raised. And then we went into the specificities of migration and flows, and then, as you've seen, we have gone into the private sector and particularities about the industries and efficiency, the things that we should do and do on practical ground, right? Now, what I would like to emphasize here that this is our daily lives. When we talk about sustainability in our communities, cities, in our daily life, this is the life we practice day to day. So if we want to ask you about the buildings, did we have already like every city now, they are announcing their carbon-free building and the less emission buildings worldwide? Do we have this? We have it into our planning, our infrastructure, especially for the new cities. And I'll ask you later about what we should do with the old cities as well, not only the new cities. Thank you, Dr. Araf.
Okay, it's really a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be invited to this very interesting meeting. For some of you, my starting of work within the frame of environment, renewable energy, and so on was in 1974. And the idea was really to make our community sustainable. I just want to really make a first remark. Whenever I attend a meeting like this one, we are talking about many disciplines. And sometimes we are looking for interdisciplinary approaches. In fact, I'm coming from abroad. I have been in 3 meetings, and everyone is talking about multidisciplinary approach. You know, when we get into the village of, it's known to some of you as the village of Basaisa in Sharqiya Governorate, and when we started there, we had this multidisciplinary approach in 1974. Not only we talk to the people, as we sometimes call it community-based education, but we developed, and I would like to stress this one because not so many people have been talking about it, the financing system. We all know that whenever you look for something new, it is expensive, and especially expensive if you don't really have it available on site. The knowledge is really also available or accessible. So we asked the people, and I'm just going to stress that because when someone would ask me, oh, have you been using solar cells? I said, yes. For the first television operated by solar energy in Egypt. But whenever you talk about renewable energy or even solar energy, we need to have this understanding that either you have a direct approach or indirect approach, like wind, biogas, biomass, you name it. And so in this village, from the start of the 70s, we started with renewable energy in all its forms. And you know, whenever we talked about that, we also talk about what we mean by what you call it community dialogue. Community dialogue, it means that we listen first and then we teach if we want. But let me concentrate on this new idea that I really would like to explore it to you, because this is the one that have made the old Basaisa and the new Basaisa in Sinai and our new community in the New Valley. All of them are working and using solar energy and keeping the environment clean and doing whatever they feel like. Because we made the connection between environment and health and the future. This is also very important in educating the public. Okay, when you ask someone from even areas like, even in my university, the American University in Cairo, and you say, what would you do if you have really sort of a need for a capital? Immediately he would say, well, هعمل جمعية. 10 colleagues, 10 people, 10 friends, and everyone would pay 1,000, and I will get my 10,000 as I need it first. And then, of course, the number 10 would be someone who is making saving and free of interest and very easy to do by even phone call. Do you know what we did? We did exactly the same, but for the whole village. Anyone of us can save whatever he can, and by the number 13 months, he will collect 3 times what he saved. 3 times what he saved. He understood it. جمعية ب 36 واحد, I'm taking the 13th. That's really the way it helped us for having someone to get a project funding, to get a small funding for his solar television or for his biogas, and it was not even taking the trip to the bank. It was only taking the trip 2-3 minutes to the community NGO.
Okay.
We developed a community NGO. So I think what I really would like to say that we need to go multidisciplinary to cooperate. The word that I heard all the time in this meeting is also cooperation from different experts, from different disciplines, to do something that we can call it a living, sustainable community.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd rather, and I'll change a little bit the order if you wouldn't mind. I'll go.
Social society, it's the politicians and decision makers, and it's the professionals. We as professionals, we are convinced we know what to do. Technology is there to transfer it. Finance is always a challenge, yes. But are we on the top priority list of decision makers? Yes or no? I really want you to think about this question. When or how can we approach this? It's been a decade we've been approaching this topic, taking actions, talking about 2030, talking about 2050. But if we really get it down and narrow it down to the ground, to the community, and this is the topic of this session, walk out the door and talk to the people on the street. What do they want? They want to make a living. They want to live first. So if you keep on telling them climate action, CO2 emissions, carbon neutrality, how can we bridge the gap and get this happening on the ground? I'll give a little example here before going too much into talking. And we've had a comment this morning about this bottle. And the answer is, I really want you to think, take this home today and think about it. How many bottles? If we put a table here next time and see how many bottles we're consuming daily, so this is a good convincing tool. Now, what is the solution? Do we have to reinvent the wheel? Or is it like a very simple answer? I remember the last conference in Germany I attended, they had a cooler, a dispenser with paper cups. Now, this is a very simple, straightforward solution. So this is just one example. Now, going back to engaging the communities in transferring knowledge from across the border to Egypt. Who are we targeting to get engaged? What and why? It has to be a big spectrum. They have to see the results on the ground, and again, engaging. As I just threw the question now, how can we improve this for the next time? This is just an engagement to the audience. So this could be another answer to your question. Without getting into details of technicalities and waste management and whatnot. Going back and linking to the question with the new communities. What's happening now in Egypt? We have more than 20 new cities that are supposedly in the future to be sustainable, smart, renewable cities. I just had, ranging from my experiences, you said, I moved from academia to government institutions to private sector now, and I have my clients. And we were just designing a net zero waste management system to be launched and implemented in one of the developments in the capital city. So there are efforts that are done. And through the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, we had huge efforts done in the field of mitigation, more to be done in adaptation in our new projects. And what about the old communities? We're not going to leave it behind. There's also plans.
Yes, this is what I was about to ask.
Exactly, and I wanted to answer this question too. And if you look in the city within, if you even you drive, there are so many projects in hand. The key challenge is to get these communities, the most affected ones, to get engaged. Without their engagement and recognition, they will not be participating. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes,
not
definitely.
Too long.
Thank you so much, both of you, Dr. Professor Salah and Dr. Nanda. Thank you so much. Now, sustainability at MSA. So I'd like to ask you, how do we get our point of view as academician? Do we still have a gaps as academia with the practice society and give the solutions?
Thank you, Dr. Ismet, for this introduction. I would like to congratulate you for this event. It is a very professional event. I'm quite happy with the audience. I usually attend the international conferences, and after the dinner, everyone disappears. So I'm quite happy that we have a audience listening to us. And thanks for the huge discussion that happened in the early morning. But I would like to ask you a simple question. Do you know who is responsible about the global GDP? Who are the major countries who are responsible about 50% of the global GDP? 50%, there are only two main countries. They are US and China, 50% out of $80 trillion. So they are responsible. So when China is accelerating its growth recently in the future, they are declining recently. They are looking for the success story to maintain fighting in the coming recession gap. We all teach these things, but if you go further, you will find that they are investing more than $110 billion in Africa. Why? Because we didn't put regulations for environment. When we go back, as the gentleman, the professor mentioned, sustainability. Sustainability was in my grandmother's house. I went with my can to the school. We were very sustainable before. We didn't find that huge consumerism, as my kid or my students explain in the morning. The consumerism, it is transferred to us from the developed countries to us by looking for incentive. What is the incentive that we are all looking for? Money. So they came with all these businesses looking for money. Whatsoever it is solar, recycling, everyone is responding to incentive whatsoever. If the government want to earn an election, they will go for growth. If the people looking for business, they are looking for profit. So what are the prioritization that we have? We teach our students this, and they excel and they know it quite well. But they cannot invent the wheel. They will revolute, they will criticize, they will write their thoughts, and all of us are a researcher. We write a lot of papers, but who are listening? So the decision maker need to make an communications between the ministry, because if you go for the ministry, we miss a simple things that I teach in the preparation for the presidential program, and they said by themselves, we need وزارة تنسيق, وزارة تنسق ما بين الوزارات. Coordination.
So it's a coordination for
coordination
planning.
وزارة, Ministry of Coordination. Why? Because each one is trying to fight against the will. Maybe there is a huge initiative for each industry or from each ministry, but we need cooperation. Our students are very well aware. They are excellent than us. When we teach, we give them a topic or themes. But as you see today, they excel. They know more than us. I have a lot of students who do their own businesses. They are open their solar panel programs. They implant for me and they put for me my solar panel in my house. As well, I have a lot of students who do their Go Green projects. They're making zero recycling. And then we need a system because Chinese companies are coming here and we need to put a regulation. I'm quite happy with the discussion, and this is a very good platform that creates awareness about the role of the government. And as you see in the presentation, I know that they explain it, you can look it on internet. You find that a very high developed countries such as Finland, let's say for example, they have a high achievement, but on the other side they have high carbon dioxide. If you go to the Bhutan and they name it Dawlat al-Saada. Why? Because they are going to the ground as the small village that the gentleman and the professor mentioned at the morning. So the eager for economics and businesses deteriorate our standardization. So we need to go back. And I want to end my wording by not to give a session or anything or giving any advices, but one of my friends tell me, Dua, pay attention. You will have money, هيبقى معاكي فلوس, and you will not be able to buy 1 kilo of tomato because the agriculture sector is dropping. What are the solutions? They are doing what we call it aquaponics. We did that in a lot of activity. So there is an hope. As similar to the crisis that we're going to find it, we are having a huge hope, but we need to put a platform or a coordination, as I mentioned in the early morning.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving now to Mr. Az. I know I should have addressed the question before, but of course, you know, we have a sequence, as the sequence of the discussion have gone, and now I'd like to ask you more maybe on the behavior of people, consumers. How is it changing? Because I know that you're working with something very close to behavior, and on the last panel, on the last session, Mr. Ahmed Zahran said that we are going to be whether we like it or not, to the electric cars.
Yes.
And soon. So I'd like to tell you introducing, I know you're doing right, this is your main activity right now, introducing electric cars to the market, or maybe, I'm not sure, maybe you can identify and make us more familiar with your business model. And as well, I'd like to say that you're a startup, so it's good that we have, right, to an extent, or maybe one of the startups, so that you are doing something that is relevant to the environment and a startup at the same time. So if you can just elaborate on your business model.
في البداية بحب أشكر كل اللي موجودين وجلوبال تريد ماترز. انا عز ابراهيم من شركه ريفولتا. انا ما اعرفش حد فيكم يسمع عن ريفولتا ولا الكتريكال فيكل او لا، بس هي الفكره اللي احنا بنتكلم عليها كلها في الكلايمت تشينج والتغيرات المناخيه. انا شايف الموضوع مش موضوع حكومه بس، هو موضوع يعني برايفت سيكتور او اويرنس. من سنتين او من 3 سنين ما كانش حد في مصر متهيألي يسمع عن اي الكتريك فيكل، فاحنا كان عندنا تشالنج قويه جدا. كان قدامنا ان احنا نعمل البيزنس ده بره مصر في اي مكان تاني وهينجح لان في ماركت، لكن هنا في مصر ما كانش فيه اي عربيات كهرباء. بدأنا ندرس المنطقة اللي حوالينا، لقينا مثلا في الأردن في أكتر من حاليا أكتر من 22,000 عربية كهرباء، لكن ما عندهمش بنية تحتية تقدر تخدم العربيات دي، والناس بتقف بالطابور. فكرة العربيات الكهرباء أولا هي بتوفر حاجتين، أولا هي بتساعد في الجلوبال ترند اللي احنا ماشيين فيه بتاع البيئة ويحافظ على البيئة. تاني حاجة هي بتسيف الكوست لو انت هتقارنها بأي عربية بنزين تانية. يعني العربية الكهرباء ممكن الكالتشر لو وصلت عند الناس تقدر تسيف كوست اب تو 60% من العربية الديزل، بلس ان الديبريشيشن او معدل الاهلاك بتاع العربية الكهرباء ممكن يوصل ل 8 أو 9 سنين مقارنة ب5 أو 6 سنين من العربيات البنزين. ومعظم العربيات الكهرباء ناس كتير هتتكلم هتقول دي الأسئلة اللي احنا بنقابلها في الماركت أو الأويرنس عند الناس، أو الناس بتسأل البطارية بكام أو البطارية تقعد قد إيه. معظم العربيات الكهرباء بطاريتها 10 سنين. فكان التشالنج عندنا احنا مفيش الماركت ده في مصر وعاوزين نعمل حاجة جديدة ونأد فاليو، مش أي بزنس. يعني أنا إكس أويل أند جاز وكونستراكشن وتيليكوم كذا سيكتور، بس دخلت السيكتور ده آخر سنة عشان احنا عاوزين نعمل حاجه تاد فاليو. لقينا تشالنج كبيره جدا طبعا، يعني مش عاوز اذكر من وكلاء السيارات، احنا قفلنا الشابتر خالص بتاع حاجه اسمها هايبر ده كانوا محتاجينها.
لا احنا محتاجين برضو العوائق يا فندم والتشالنجز.
التشالنجز ان كل الوكلاء بتوع العربيات الكهرباء رافضين ان العربيه الكهرباء تنزل. الكلام ده من سنتين. ليه؟ عشان هم بيكسبوا من الفلتر والزيت والبنزين والموتور والميكانيكس وكل حاجه، وثانيا العربيات اللي عندهم يخسروها. لكن الحقيقه احنا لقينا دعم كامل من الحكومه، لقينا مساعده من شركه وطنيه ان احنا حطينا محطات الشحن بتاعتنا في جميع محطات وطنيه. لقينا موافقه كبيره من المولات والكومباوندز ومن الاوتيلات. يعني احنا عندنا في الفور سيزون وفي براميزا هوتيل وعندنا في كايرو فيستيفال وفي ايكيا. بدا يبقى عندنا شكل. الحكومه بتتكلم دلوقتي على الشبكه اللي موجوده في مصر ان احنا اكبر شبكه فعلا في افريقيا. لسه الماركت ما اتحركش، وهرجع برضه اقول ليه الماركت ما اتحركش، بس الحمد لله احنا في مصر دلوقتي عندنا اكبر شبكه بتاعت شحن عربيات كهرباء في افريقيا. عندنا شواحن مغطيه لغايه سهل حشيش الساحل الشمالي، ومن الناحيه الثانيه الغردقه ومحافظات الدلتا، وعندنا خطه برضه بس مستنيه شويه استثمارات عشان نبتدي في الصعيد السنه الجايه، وعندنا اخر محطه موجوده في العقبه عشان تربط بيننا وبين الاردن ويحصل برضه تبادل تجاري بيننا وبينهم. المشكله ان في اي بلد بيبقى فيها مشاكل، او زي ما زميلتي كانت بتتكلم ان ما فيش تنسيق بين الحكومات. يعني وزاره الماليه قالت مثلا احنا ترخيص العربيه ب 20 جنيه، دلوقتي رحنا الاداره العامه للمرور قال لك هديك رخصه شهر وتجددها. هل يعقل ان في عربيه تتجدد كل شهر؟ فهي مساله وقت. احنا الحمد لله في دعم كبير قوي من لجنه الطاقه برعايه المهندس طلعت السويدي، وبدانا نحط قوانين كمان وتشريعات معاهم في ورك شوبس عشان بيع الكهرباء يبقى مناسب للمواطن ويقدر يدعم الموضوع ده بشكل كبير. بس هي يعني لو هنبص على جلوبال ترند ات ويل كم يعني.
بس هل this model will يعني expand more وهيجي لما يبقى في التكلفة بتاعته كمان؟ يعني حضرتك برضه بنتكلم ان لسه التكلفة عالية جدا، فحضرتك رأيك ايه؟ ولا مع الستاندردايزيشن لما يبتدي؟
والله هو تكلفة المشروع او البيزنس موديل اللي احنا قايمين عليه موجود في بلاد كتير جدا. تو موديلز، يعني الحكومة بتعمله وبيبقى جايب فاندز، او شركات خاصة بتعمله بيبقى بسبسكريبشن فيز، او بيكسب بيحط مارجن في سعر الكيلو وات للكهرباء. لكن الموديل ده يعني حضرتك في ابلكيشن انترناشونال اسمه بلوك شير، تقدري تشوفي المحطات بتاعتنا كلها عليه. ده موجود فيه جلوبالي، يعني آلاف المحطات الموجودة دلوقتي. يعني هي دي بقت الكالتشر. يعني خلاص احنا، يعني انا في مصر ما حدش مصدق ان انا بركب عربية اوتو درايف من الغردقة للقاهرة، انا ما بسوقش. يعني هي بتشوف اللين وبتمشي. احنا محتاجين بس الاويرنس عند الناس يزيد، محتاجين مساعدة بين الحكومة والجهات المعنية فعلا انها تنسق، وكمان المستثمرين بدل ما يعني اي حد دلوقتي بيدور دايما على الار او اي. اكيد اي حد فينا عاوز يكسب، بس زي احنا بندور على الار اي لازم ندور ازاي ناد فاليو، لازم ازاي ندور نخدم المجتمع ده، لازم ازاي ندور نتبنى الافكار الجديده او نساعدها.
So it's profits and sustainability. Basically.
Yes.
This is what you are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for this
Shukran.
great introduction. And moving, last but not certainly least, Mr. Abdulrahman, I'd like to know first of all from the terminology. I know you are the chairman of a youth think green, okay? And it's a social enterprise. A social enterprise, how would you label it? I mean, what is a social enterprise in first place? And what is of course, its relation to climate neutrality? When you define it, will be clear. So, but if you can just tell us, and what do you do, of course? Are you building capacities in youth and for startups to give them awareness, information, seminars, training? So you can, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be among you here. So Youth in Green is a social enterprise which started in Germany in 2009 with the main mission of educating and empowering youth to start their local sustainable development projects. By the term social enterprise, what's the difference between an NGO, private enterprise, and social enterprise? Social enterprise, one of the main focuses is not generating profits, but focusing on impact-based solutions and impact-based generations. So what we do, we are registered as a company here in Egypt. We don't generate personal profits. However, we circulate our profits in new different projects and new different activities. We are actually a youth-led organization. We started back in 2013. We started as a student organization inside the University of Cairo. And then in 2018, we registered as a limited liability company. What we do on a global level and also on a local level, we build the local capacities of youth, starting from schools, but also in universities, to be able to start their own local sustainable projects. And by local sustainable projects, we have to talk about sustainability entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship of sustainability. What have been discussed throughout the day, that what's good about sustainability, that it focuses on the three main pillars: economic, environmental, and social. So we're not talking about climate change only, we are talking about business behind climate change. We have been working on different topics throughout the past 5 years. We have discussed the topics of solar energy. We educated more than 500 young caliber on renewable energy and specifically solar energy. Some of them right now are working in corporations, some of them are having their own startups, but also some of them are doing their studies abroad as well. Lately, for 2 years, we have established a very strategic partnership with the Ministry of Trade and Industry to work on the topic of circular economy and waste management. What we are trying to do at the end of the day, that after building the capacities, after empowering youth to know state-of-the-art methodologies and techniques that could be used to develop their own sustainable projects, we are trying to offer an impact-grounded experience for them related to the industries. So our partnership with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, that they created two very valuable things. Number one, mapping of industrial waste in 10th of Ramadan and 6th of October cities. And they have also provided
Why specifically there? I mean, because they're the most areas of contamination.
the two biggest industrial areas.
Industrial,
Yeah.
for industrial. But you don't concentrate as well as where the most contamination is. I'm taking from this goal, sort of sustainable development goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the waste, industrial waste, are generated from those two areas. So they have did this mapping of industrial waste, and also they have did the identified business opportunities on that kind of waste. Our rule was to effectively communicate those opportunities with the young calibers and to support them start their own local ventures, which can foster innovation on waste management and waste recycling. We have also started focusing on agricultural waste. As you know, agriculture and industrial waste together, they form 50% of the Egyptian waste generation, around 50 million Egyptian tons per year of the waste, agriculture and industrial. So currently, right now, we are offering our beneficiaries a grounded experience of market-based business opportunities that they can work on, that they can learn from. And some of them succeed with their own ventures, doing some products out of the waste generated from the agricultural and industrial sector. Some join other corporations with the mentality and the methodology of how sustainable transformation could be generated inside those corporations. And as Mr. Az said, the most important thing that youth have to focus on, and we advise them to focus on, is the value behind their product or behind their transformation. Usually the youth, with their enthusiasm and with their motivation, they are usually obsessed with their ideas and products. However, the value is much more important to think about the economic value, the environmental value, and the social value as well.
Okay, thank
So
you
this
very
is briefly, in a nutshell, what Youth Think Green is doing in Egypt since 2013.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Thank you very much. You are very true in that those three aspects, maybe you can say summarize everything about when you come to talk about stakeholders and actions that you need to take and pillars that you need to consider for climate change. Dr. Arafa, again back to you. We have talked about either through the multidisciplinary collaboration, maybe Dr. Randa as well referred a little bit about things that we should consider when solving bottlenecks when we go practically on ground for waste management and other environmental problems that we face. But she said something very important, and most of you as well referred to it during your speeches, is infrastructure. So do we have the do we have enough infrastructure that makes us or enables us to use these new technologies maybe to achieve our emission targets or the SDGs through 2050? Do we have enough infrastructure? We have the preparedness, as we can say, or we need more? We need to work more on infrastructure.
When I talk about the answer to your question out of my experience 50 years ago, yes, we have everything. We have the experts, we have even the infrastructure, we have the resources, but we need to cooperate, and we need to coordinate, and we need to involve. And I must say that please remember that we are going to have the problem if we don't see for ourselves and for our teaching and awareness that renewables are the future of our planet, and children are the future of our nation. And the only way to go about it is really by involving them and give them a good teaching. We can have it.
So this is our soft power or soft infrastructure, as we can say. Well,
if we don't waste it.
of course. Dr. Randa, I'd like to ask you, I know that as well through your practical experience, you have done a lot of capacity building for the youth, for people. You go to schools, to universities. What is the most important, impactful message that you go through and tell them? What do they really need to do? Especially, you know, with the young, they are very intelligent, this generation.
Yes, they are, and to have the passion and understand the topic, to learn through hands-on, to continue to just say lectures. Nowadays with the technology, you can open a YouTube and teach yourself, so that's not it. We want the experience of the experts to go in and say stories or tell them stories from their real experience, to shake hands and have a win-win agreement with industry and decision makers. So without having the agreement between academia, politicians and decision makers in industry. In other words, so when I teach my students a case study, I pull it out of industry. So I go to one of the private sector companies and I ask them, what is your real problem today in that field? I bring it into my student, they work on it, they present it, and I give it back to the industry. So it's a win-win agreement. So this could be one of the driving forces and a successful way to do it. So my dream is to see this happening in Egypt one day, to go on the ground and have a real project. As I said, the very simple example is to look in this room and to engage them. If I continue to talk for an hour without engaging my audience, I'm sure you'll be on your phones and thinking about the next session, which is the lunch. I hope you enjoy it. So the key here is to get you all, as I can see everybody is looking up now when I said lunch and the break. So that's the key. You want them to be engaged. And you want to leave them with a question. That is, what is the next approach? In my opinion, we've been talking for a decade with the same approach, getting the same results. So maybe if you leave today the room, just think about how can I make a new approach to react faster. Yes, we are doing efforts, but it's a very lower base. So the changes in climate, the solid waste, all this is happening faster than what we do. So it has to be an innovative solution. And the good news is, with always looking at the bright side, technology probably will surprise us when talking about the energy. We talked about the cars, electric cars. I was just reading an article, Tesla, which is the producer of the cars, have now solar roofs. So there's a non-stop of research and technology around the world. And when I say around the world, that doesn't have to be something that we produce. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just start from there and kick off the ground running. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving again to Dr. Dua. When we talk about the environmental model, we, as economists as well, we look always at growth. So it's growth versus sustainable development, our, ongoing debate since long. So again, when you tell your students, this is awareness in universities, how do you give them advice to go through, just to look at the sustainable growth models or sustainability in growth?
Thank you for this is a very big question. However, when we go for indicators, they usually criticize indicators. Doctor, GDP is not enough. Doctor, they ignore this. Doctor, carbon dioxide is not enough. You are taking it from one perspective. And I'm so quite happy by that they are criticizing. Yes, because scholars and the researchers, unfortunately, when they take calculations of certain math, when we go to compare carbon dioxide how much, GDP how much, as I mentioned, unfortunately, this is underestimated. This is the problem. The underestimated of measures, they reflect on my indicators, not my indicators, but the global indicators. They also reflect, I'm giving you their reflection, they also reflect that the Millennium Development Goals didn't achieve. Are the social development goals are going to the same end? I said it depends on the trade-off. We are going to trade off with the environment for the sake of growth? So this is the crisis. If we do this, if we took this decision on all disciplines whatsoever, globally, industrial, sectorial, family level, if we do this, we are going to face a crisis. Why? Because we are sacrificing with the environment. I'm usually very optimistic because students usually give a solution using digitalization, ICT. Technology. Students try to rationalize when they look for that the high developed countries or high economic growth, they are cancer city. And this is the trade-off. This is the second trade-off. Cancer or growth or environment. So when you give the people the decision or any person the decision, he will prioritize. What are your decisions? So this is the very important criteria. When we go for electric cars, solar, all the technology have a side effect. But we need to prioritize because we are going to face a challenging era. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Moving again to Mr. Reyes. Now I'd like to ask you about, yes, people now we got the grasp that it's going, we have a market for, we will soon maybe have a market for, a big enough market for electric cars. And do you think, for instance, in other areas, okay, of climate and other areas involving environmentally friendly technologies, do we think we will get a time here when people will understand the new technologies in the environment and that they should, especially the consumers? We were talking on a front, yes, we have the front of the governance and the collective effort of governments to help in this, but as well the behavior of us as consumers should change. So do you see this coming in the maybe in the near future, maybe a longer
خلينا
term
نتفق
future?
ان اي حاجه جديده بيبقى لها ريزيستنس، اي كلتشر جديد او اي اندستري جديد او اي شيء جديد بيبقى له ريزيستنس. بس احنا من صفحات التواصل الاجتماعي ومع احتكاكنا مع العملاء ومن بعض الايفنتس اللي عملناها، زي عملنا ايفنت اسمه جو جرين، وعملنا كذا راوند تريبس بالالكتريكال فيكلز، وعملنا بارتنرشيب للطلبه مع شيل، اديناهم انترشيب ل 10 طلبه كانوا بيصمموا فعلا عربيه كهرباء موديل ديمو، في حد منهم فاز. خلينا نتكلم ان انا اللي انا شايفه وحاسه، احنا كنا عاملين حساب ان هيبقى في ريزيستنس قويه جدا على الكالتشر بتاعت الناس. بس خلينا اقول بعد التكنولوجيا والشباب الجديده بالذات، انا شايف الناس كلها لا يعني they are searching and digging more، وممكن يبقوا عارفين معلومات اكتر من ناس كتير اكسبرتس في الاندستريز دي. هو اللي انا شايفه، بس الموضوع محتاج شويه وقت، لكن الوقت مش كبير يعني، زي ما احمد كان بيقول وزي ما كل الجلوبال انديكيتورز بتقول اتس ماتر اوف تايم، بس يعني الترند از انكريزنج. خلينا نقول برضو يعني في بعض العوائق تتشال زي موضوع التراخيص وبعض الاشياء دي، والحكومه تدي انسنتيف، الموضوع هيزيد جدا. اللي عاوز اقوله كمان ان حاجه زي كده هتستخدم كمان في وسائل النقل التشاركي زي اوبر وكريم. يعني اللي عاوز اقوله برضو النهارده ان احنا ان شاء الله الشهر الجاي هنطلق اول موبايل اب لتاكسي كهرباء في مصر. يعني ادعوا لنا كده ان شاء الله ربنا يوفقنا فيه ويقوم. ده هيخلي السواق نفسه ان شاء الله يكسب اكتر ما هو بيكسب حوالي 30%، والكونسيومر يعني اليوزر العادي هيوفر اكتر من 25% من الفير العاديه اللي بيدفعها في العربيه البنزين. بس هي مساله فكر، كل حاجه جديده
يعني المفروض هيقلل الاميشنز كمان يعني.
اكيد انا بتكلم على البيئه وعلى الحاجه اللي هتاتراكت الناس. يعني زي ما احمد زهران في السيشن اللي فاتت كان بيقول لازم الموضوع يبقى بروفيتبل والناس تحس بيه، الموضوع مش موضوع بس يعني حافظ على البيئه. اكيد اللي عنده وعي واويرنس وفاهم اكيد لازم يحافظ على بيئته ولازم ياد فاليو. فازاي انت تخلي حاجه بتاد فاليو برضه بتدي يعني فاينانشال فاليو او بروفيتبل فاليو للناس، هي دي بقى التشالنج. بس هي مساله وقت، اللي انا شايفه انها مساله وقت.
Thank you very much. ميرسي جدا. مستر عبد الرحمن، حاجة برضو هوجه لحضرتك. I'll tell you the same question I just addressed to Dr. Nanda. When you go to the schools, to the universities, what is the first, and of course you will they see you're a startup, so they get maybe motivated by what you're doing as well, and they look up to you. So what is the first message you give them?
Two messages. Number one, many young people only focuses on IT and ICT innovations. We trying a little bit to shift their interest towards manufacturing and local production innovations. This is number one. Why? Because the most successful startups worldwide are Facebook, Apple, and so on and so forth. So they are really obsessed with their innovations. However, from my own perspective, what we really need in Egypt is local production and manufacturing innovations. This is number one. Number two, they a little bit lack trust in themselves and their skills that they can compete on a global level. However, we have experienced many of our beneficiaries going on global platforms, competing against startups from Europe, from USA and others, and they were very, very excelling and good. So, I mean, عقدة الخواجة or whatever they can say, that no, Egyptian innovation, local innovation could compete on a global level. They just need to receive the trust of the community here in Egypt, which is the government, which is the private sector, who can support the innovation coming out from the youth community, and also receive some risk investments. Unfortunately, investments in Egypt is not yet, investment schemes in Egypt is not yet fully developed, so the risk investments or the early stage investments are not well established. We are trying to work out different models with our private sector, with our private sector partners, but also banking sector partners, to increase their trust in the innovations, in the local innovations, so that they can invest at early stage. So yeah, this the two messages. Focus a little bit on local manufacturing.
And believe in yourself, basically.
Yes, with the support of IT definitely and all of the digital solutions, but the core value should be manufacturing and local production. Number two, have trust in your capacities that you can compete on a global or regional level, the same as startups from different regions.
That's great. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to going with, instead of having a wrapping message, okay, which I'm sure we've done since the morning, I'll go with Dr. Randa's request and maybe engage the floor a little bit, maybe with 2-3 questions, 5 minutes. Thank you.
They'll wake up now, eh?
We have to take
Thank you.
action. This is the place to take action. So if anybody, the floor has any questions for the speakers, please, we would like to have them right now. We have a 5 minutes time because we have lunch as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. That's more exciting.
Thank you. It's more exciting and it's more difficult. And what are your recommendations regarding if you want to work? We have programs, we have environmental initiative, but it's not very easy to work in a public school where people are really deprived and to talk about environment and what to do to have a better environment. So what would be your suggestion, putting into consideration that I'm not talking about international schools and not private schools?
And I like this example very much, and I'll pull the answer from your comment. How can we encourage them? Incentives. Let them see the results on the ground. For us here as experts, for politicians and decision makers, they're putting a plan for 2050. But let your students see the result in a week's time. Get them to do a project for their school. Have a green wall, for example, to implement it in their school. They will see the results. But you have to give them an incentive. The dollar or the Egyptian pound, the money is the key. There has to be a rewarding point where they will get excited about, but they will also see the results on their health, on their activities, but make it fun. Learning through fun. Okay? Thank you.
Yes. Yes, please go ahead. Any further questions, please?
Question to us around the electric vehicle penetration in the market. It's a multi-layered question. First, do we have statistics about how many cars there are roughly in Egypt right now, EVs or hybrids? Number one. And two, is there a government or an industry plan for the market share of these vehicles, let's say by 2025 or 2030? I mean, there are countries like, I can quote Norway is the kingpin of this. By 2025, they will phase out all internal combustion vehicles totally. So is there a plan yet or a vision by the Egyptian government or the industry as to how many cars we want by what year? And how are we, not subsidizing, but how are we supporting this with the fiscal policies? We know about the taxation and the custom that has been done, but the fear in the market, talking to many people, I myself have been, thinking of buying an EV several times. I fear the meter. I fear you buy a £1 million car right now, and 6 months down the road, the Minister of Malaya Finance changes, and then there's a 60% hike up in the electricity rates for electric cars, and then you're... So are there plans or guarantees to address these issues and to ensure faster and more stable penetration? Thank you.
خلينا نتكلم الأول على في كم عربية مثلا موجودة دلوقتي إلكتريك. مصر فيها مع اليوزرز أو ناس بتستخدم ديلي يوزر أكتر من فوق ال 250 عربية دول راننج على الأرض. لكن عشان أنا زي ما شرحت قبل كده بعض الوكلاء العربيات تأخروا في نزولها. في تجار يعني مصر دلوقتي فيها أكتر من 1000 عربية. مشكلة الموضوع إن هو مش مترخص. الشهر اللي فات بس اترخص حوالي 75 عربية. فكرة إن الحكومة بعض البلاد بره زي ما حضرتك ذكرت الحكومة هي اللي بتعمل المشاريع دي. سو فار لغاية دلوقتي البرايفت سيكتور بس هم اللي شغالين. يعني ريفولتا شغالة بقالها سنتين وفي شركة بدأت منافسة لينا. واكيد الماركت هيستوعب شركات اكبر. الحكومه حاليا بتدعم ان الموضوع يبقى فيه انسنتيف لترخيص العربيه. انت تقدر تستورد عربيه بزيرو كاستمز، only you can pay 14% VAT. وتقدر تستورد كمان اخر يعني عربيه قديمه 3 years ago. موضوع الترخيص الحكومه بعد ما هتدعمه هيوفر جامد جدا وهيشجع في سعر العربيه. الراننج كوست بتاع العربيه مقارنه زي ما قلت بالبنزين مختلف تماما، لكن زي ما قلت لحضرتك كل يوم في ريجوليشنز هتتغير وفي قوانين هتتحط، بس يعني الموقف السياسي او الموقف رئاسه الوزراء او كل الوزارات بيدعموا هذا الموضوع. لكن زي ما قلنا حته الكوردينيشن هي اللي ناقصه، ان انا اوثق بين وزاره البيئه ووزاره الماليه. يعني وزاره الماليه اصدرت قرار ان العربيه تترخص من 15 ل 20 جنيه، بعد كده رحنا المرور قال لا الرخصه تطلع شهر واحد واقعد جددها تاني. فهو الموضوع بس مساله وقت. شكرا.